So hi Alfie, I'm Jenny.
Jenny.
And I'm at the People's History Museum in Manchester, which is the National Museum of Democracy. And thankfully today it's actually fine for Manchester, so it's not raining. So I'm able to show you something that's outside the museum that kind of really sums up what the museum's about. So I thought it would be a really good starting point. So this is the Peterloo Mural that was created by Axel Void to commemorate the bicentenary of the Peterloo Massacre in 2019. So that was the 200th anniversary of an event that happened in Manchester, at which ordinary people, 60,000, gathered to protest for their democratic rights. But as you can see, this is a contemporary take on Peterloo. So what Axel Void's done, he's imagined if Peterloo happened today. On the mural, you've got Lydia with her son Ezra, and Lydia is the daughter of a Windrush generation immigrant, so that's people that migrated to Britain after the Second World War. And what he was looking at was, if Peterloo happened today, what would people be fighting for? And what they would be fighting for is the rights of that Windrush generation who had their legal rights denied, were deported, and just thought that would be a really interesting place to start in the tour and show you the contemporary links that the museum makes.
That's amazing. This is a representation of real people, as you say. It's not fictional, and they've been explicitly used not as models, but because their story speaks to a social injustice that we are still experiencing, right? I mean, the financial compensation for the people who were targeted by the Home Office and people from the Windrush generation and their children, all the settlements haven't been made, and people have complained about how difficult that is. I think that's a fantastic way of making a historical link, I find that really, really kind of wonderful. So is that right out front of the museum?
It's round the side of the museum. Okay. Well, the museum started off in London in the 60s, and then it moved up to Manchester in the 80s. But we've been in this current building for 10 years. It's actually our 10-year birthday this year.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I'll just walk around now and we'll go into the museum. Just going to flip the camera around to show you this quickly, which is called The Battle for the Ballot, and it's a lot of writing on the wall, but it's kind of a summary of everything that the museum's about. So it's the past 200 years of people campaigning for their democratic rights and for equality in Britain. So we've got the Industrial Revolution, the cooperative movement, got women's suffrage up there. So I just thought it was a useful starting point to kind of stop. And you'll see here it says, there have always been ideas worth fighting for. So that's the thing that hangs everything together in the museum, that these are ideas that people fought for, put their lives on the line for, to make, our lives better today.
Right.
We work with community curators to develop our programmes, and one of the things that they're doing for this year's theme is to interrogate our main galleries and spaces and create interventions that challenge what we've put on display. And one of the things that they're doing is an alternative version of this Battle for the Ballot, looking at Black history and diverse histories. So, that's an exciting thing that will be launched next year. And
that sounds great. Yeah, that's brilliant. That sounds like a really good idea, good initiative.
Well, I'll just flip this round. And so this here, I'll just show you, is a napkin from Peterlee, which was a commemorative napkin. And I'll just show you some of the imagery on there. I'll tell you a little bit about it. So the Peterlee Massacre, as I said a little bit before, was in 1819 on the 16th of August. So it was 200 years ago. And 60,000 people from this area came to campaign for their democratic right. At the time, only 3% of the population had the right to vote. And Manchester did not have any representatives, despite being a huge industrial and growing city. And these people came for peaceful demonstration, and they went home with 18 people were killed and around 700 were injured, including children and women. So this is the scene that's depicted on the napkin. You've got the platform in the centre with the speakers, and then you can see the cavalry with their sabres drawn. And the authorities worried about a revolution, but one of the key things that the speakers had said, come dressed in white and don't bring weapons, and that's why the mural you saw outside, Lydia was wearing white to make that contemporary reference, and the protesters were wearing their peaceful clothes. So this was really we start the galleries because this is the start of the path to democratic reform. It happened here in Manchester, but it was a national event.
Right, and again, topical. You know, you think about this year, you think about people, you think about demonstrations in the UK and across the world, people insisting on their rights. So I think it's always good to be able to look to the past and let it hold up a mirror to the present, right? To see what does that speak about how we respond to dissent, and what do we frame as dissent? What do we consider acceptable? What do we think democracy is?
And I thought I was going to do this a bit later in the tour, but it fits really nicely that I have actually been doing contemporary collecting this year. So I wanted to show you a photograph from Black Lives Matter protests that happened this year in Manchester. So these were the protests that happened in Manchester in May and June 2020 following the killing of George Floyd. We've acquired 66 of these photographs in the museum collection. Our manifesto is all about empowering people to use their voice. So I just feel like the museum at the moment is so relevant with everything that's going on in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And a timely, opportunity to show the museum's collection, I think, right, and reach a wider audiences when travel is so difficult, when, goodness knows what's going to be happening in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the museums definitely aren't neutral, and I think that's the key part of our programme this year. In the past couple of years, we had Never Going Underground, which was the fight for LGBT plus rights, and we had Represent, which was about the representation and women's rights. So, yeah, we're not afraid to use our historic collections, but to address contemporary issues. And in 1832, there's a thing called the Great Reform Act, and I'll let you guess. So it was 3% of the population could vote in the time of the Peterlee Massacre. So 1832, the Great Reform Act. How many percent of the population do you think could vote after the Great Reform Act?
Goodness. It's called the Great Reform Act, and I think it's going to be a pitifully small number, isn't it? 12%.
You're very close. It was 8% of the population. And so to flip back round to this banner, this is a banner from 1832. This was produced to kind of celebrate the 1832 Reform Act. It says, "The battle's won, Britannia's sons are free, and despots tremble at the victory." And people paraded around the country in celebration of the Great Reform Act. And then sadly, the small print, and found out actually it's not made much of a difference.
It's one of the things that's striking me just from the napkin and the banner is the iconography of protest, and I guess the function of that in spreading a social message, in reaching more people, as it's an extension of what we're doing now, I suppose, right? Which is really fascinating to me. I mean, it just struck me when you were telling me about it before, the napkin. They made a commemorative napkin of a massacre, presumably that and the banner were both to kind of galvanise support.
Well, actually, we think that the napkins were made as napkins because at the time, if you had been at Peterloo, it was actually a dangerous thing to have been at. So a napkin is something that you can kind of stow away quite easily. So it's like a commemorative item, but you can hide it. I'll take you over to another trade union banner that we've got in the collection. But trade unions were banned, and protesting was, you could be transported for being a member of trade unions in the 19th century. So the very, just being able to protest was dangerous. Well, this is the oldest trade union banner in the world from 1821. And this is the tin plate workers banner. And you've got the figure of hope with her anchor there, and justice. And you've got the bundle of sticks, which is a symbol of unity and strength, the all-seeing eye of God, and the Union Jack here. So there's lots of symbols there. This was produced in 1821 for the coronation of George IV. It's the oldest trade union banner in the world, so it's one of the highlights of our collection. Amazing. But it is something that the community programme team again have been challenging in terms of the figures, depictions of women in the banner, colonial imagery, the patriotism, and lots of our banners will celebrate cotton workers, but it won't have any reference to the slaves who
where
were
that cotton came from,
producing the cotton, where it came from. So that's one of the key things that they're wanting to address, and one of their ideas is a fake trade union banner that turns all that on its head and questions the imagery.
That's really interesting. Let me ask you then, when that was produced in 1821, what purpose does it serve if in the 19th century trade unions are illegal? Were they illegal at that point? Did they have a license? And also, how does a trade union function?
It's a little bit of a grey area around this time, because this was in the 1820s, and you had the Combination Acts at the end of the 18th century that banned trade unions, but gradually through the early part of the 19th century they were legalised. I'll show you this. This is it's supposed to be the mock-up of the back room of a pub, and can you see that skeleton banner just there? So people wanted to form trade unions to improve their lives, but like I said, it was illegal, and you could be in serious trouble. You could be jailed, you could be transported for being a member. And so often people swore an oath of allegiance to the trade union in the back room of a pub with a banner like that skeleton banner there to remind you that almost of your own death if you were to be found out to be a member of the trade union, and you had to take your oath with a gun up to your head to make sure you were swearing the oath of allegiance.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Just tying those things together. We think of the Industrial Revolution. What are the raw materials that are coming in to fuel that transformation in our society? Obviously, there's technological innovation that happens, but
I just wanted to bring you now to this section, which is women's suffrage, but it's also got a banner, contemporary banner that we've got over here. So it says, "Treat us with respect and dignity. We are Revive Women." And this is a banner from 2019, and it's a collection of textile banners that the Revive Women's Group created with an artist. And the Revive project provides support and services for refugees and asylum seekers. So this is brilliant. The banners that are in our display. We've tried to choose banners with a migration theme and that highlight contemporary issues. So
that's fantastic. The power is in the people. It's an expression of that power.
I'll take you now to our gallery upstairs. And one thing that's really close to everybody's hearts at the moment is the NHS as well, obviously in this current COVID crisis. And on display, I'll just show you here, is the Beveridge Report, which the Beveridge Report was a report in which William Beveridge talked about the 5 horrors of idleness, ignorance, disease, squalor and want. And it was those things that really laid the foundation for the NHS. So it was that report after the Second World War that led to, the formation of the NHS, which we hold so dear today and which is doing such an amazing job in this current crisis. Finally, I just thought I'd take you through to the museum looks at working life and leisure of working people. And are you a football fan?
I am a football fan.
I can give you some football geeky facts. So do you know why you've traditionally got the 3 p.m. kickoff for football on a Saturday?
No, that's great, actually. No, I don't know why.
Well, yeah, because at the time, the working conditions of workers that during the Industrial Revolution, workers worked a 16-hour day, and throughout the Industrial Revolution and through the 19th and 20th century, there were campaigns for shorter working hours. And one of those campaigns that coincided with football's development as a game was the start of the half-day holiday on a Saturday. So you could finish work, have something to eat, go to the game. So, I think when you hear debates about the 3 p.m. kickoff and things like that, I just think it's always really interesting to think that it was shaped by society and by those campaigns. And then I just wanted to point out this really important item in our collection here. So this is the England football shirt of Viv Anderson, who was the first black footballer to play for England from debut at Wembley in 1978, and the match was against Czechoslovakia, which of course doesn't exist as a country anymore, but in 1978 did. We have recently had a blog on our website from Viv Anderson reflecting on racism in football. Yeah, and I think in his blog he reflects on how proud he was, but also how terrifying it was as well. And another thing that Viv Anderson was reflecting on in his blog is that it's generally people acknowledge that black footballers are good, but that's not something that's reflected in the management structures of football. You've got lots of black footballers, but you haven't got that being reflected in the management of football. And that is one of the next fights, really, to ensure that talent is going through the structures, not just through playing, but through the management as well.
And what does that say about us as a society? That we think, okay, we can have talented black athletes playing football, but disproportionately underrepresented as managers. That's a really kind of sinister disparity, I think, in terms of how we think of the spaces that black people are allowed to occupy, and how we value the contributions of black people in our society.
That's something we're really conscious of in our galleries, that we can really explore those contemporary issues. It's pointless to have the historic collections if it's not changing the future, and that's really what we're about. Ideas worth fighting for in the past, in the present, but in the future as well. And that's what this museum is all about.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. I'm so excited to have got to see it finally. I've been sort of hoping to be able to visit the museum for a while now.
Oh, well, thank you for joining me on the tour.
Thank you guys very much. Peace.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.